Welcome to episode 94 of Shockwaves. We're all back in the Blumhouse conference room, finally.
Yeah.
One of your hosts, Rob G, sitting here with Elric Kane.
Yep. Right
looking much more sober than the last time we did the show together.
I was sober after a lot of the first night, really.
Yeah. So much vomit, dude.
I did like the Elricist that somebody made.
Oh, the Elricist. That was wonderful.
Yeah. But not as good as the Predator Purge trailer Ryan alerted me to.
That was
That
John
was
Holland.
amazing.
John Holland, yes.
Shout out.
Ryan Turek is here as well.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
How did you feel hearing about his exploits since you weren't there and you only heard about them in text?
Everybody needs adult supervision.
There
Clearly.
was so much vomit.
But we'll see what happens next week.
Oh, that's right. It's
In
Texas.
Texas.
I'm only there the last night, so remember that, guys. It won't be long, so I'll behave.
That's a lot of partying.
Yeah, but that means you have to fit it all into one
okay,
night.
I won't behave. You've got it.
I know. You won't.
Plus, Ryan's going solo, so this has to get crazy, right? You're going solo? Oh, God. Yeah, let's do
I'm
this.
going solo too, guys.
Okay,
So
no
you
problem.
know you know what a crazy drinker
Yes, you're really
I
crazy.
am.
Yeah. Last but not least, of course, Rebekah McKendry is with
Hi,
us.
guys.
Hello. Welcome.
I'll be hanging out in Texas with
No
my
one bring
tea.
any peanut beer.
No,
that's
nothing.
fair.
Nothing.
Stay
clearly
away
at
from
all.
They actually make pecan beer, I've encountered, but not peanut yet. So, yeah.
Well, we have some fun events to report back from. Obviously, Ryan, I think you should kick it off because you were at the Overlook.
Overlook Film Festival.
Yeah, new location. Where is this
New
again?
location. They were in the heart of New Orleans.
Okay.
Right there in the French Quarter. And
Did the place it was like before you were in the hotel?
It was not a contained situation like the previous overlooks in Oregon and at Estes Park. Everybody was pretty much put up at the Bourbon Orleans Hotel, which is right in the French Quarter. But all of the theaters were kind of scattered around the area, and they just broke it all up. And it started Thursday night. They ran for 4 nights, and I have to say it was a success. I think that I really missed the kind of claustrophobic confines and the communal vibe that came about from being under one roof in Oregon and being under one roof in Estes Park.
Those ones always felt like our summer camp.
It
where
was,
like literally
it
like you were
was.
watching films with this group and then you would go to have drinks and then you would see them at breakfast the next morning. It was
How has
just
no one done
literally
horror summer camp at the Friday 13th place? Like, how has that not happened?
Well, that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Insurance.
But you
rights
and I will talk
licensing.
offline.
How we can make this happen.
And it was a lot of fun. They had a lot of films. We had Unfriended, Dark Web, and Upgrade playing there after their South by Southwest debut. But you had other films like St. Agatha and Puppet Master and Hereditary and Downrange and Wolfman's Got Nards, the Monster Squad documentary. There was just a lot of stuff.
Hey,
and then
Rob and I are in that.
Yeah.
and then around that, you had this immersive gaming experience, as they've done in previous years. And
Did Bousman get involved in that this time?
No, it was
no.
produced by
Molly
Elfman.
Yeah, Molly Elfman, and then there were these 2 other guys that came up with the story. Molly produced it, and Ciara was the one who got caught up in all of that. So she's gotten to a point where they've built the game to counteract her and her friend Kara and her friend Rachel's gaming prowess.
Kara
Right.
Mandel.
So, yeah, Kara Mandel. So we learn. I kind of talked to a few people offline, and they're like, "So has Ciara got into this? Have they got into that?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, they're way behind." I think Lee Wanell, who was in town for Upgrade, he texts me and he's like, "I found a treasure map. What do I do?" And I was like, "Well, that got solved 2 hours ago, Lee." He's like, "Oh, all right, never mind." But while people are playing the game, you can, go see films. There was a lot of interactive experiences. I did the Delusion VR experience, which was incredibly impressive. It was 35 minutes long, and it was like experiencing a Delusion live event, but you kind of, I would say that the experience was amplified by really great like makeup effects and CG and stuff like that. I missed Alex Aja's Campfire Creeper, so I'm working on trying to get a private screening here for that. But everybody was saying that was a lot of fun.
That's a virtual reality, though,
That's
right?
a virtual VR. Yeah. I'm talking about VR.
Right. So you need the equipment to.
You
do
need
that,
the equipment, exactly. And there was a couple other ones that were there, but film-wise, I had kind of seen quite a bit already. That was already at South by and Sundance. But the one thing that I was really excited for was Puppet Master: The Littlest Rogue.
Yes.
And, based on that title alone, you should know that tongue is planted firmly in cheek. This is the great part. Udo Kier was at the festival.
Did he give you a back rub?
He did not give me a back rub. He apparently took over Ian
Did he get more
Nicholson's-
wasted than Elric? We've seen that.
We've seen that much more.
Is he going to be at Texas again this year?
No.
Oh, damn.
No, I don't think so.
Man.
Not after last year, probably.
Wow.
I still have his cowboy pick he gave me. This is me as a cowboy. So, yeah.
Well, he came up to see her. She had her Bauhaus shirt, and he's like, Bauhaus. I know Bauhaus. I'm German. And she was just like, I love you. But Udo plays Toulon in the Puppet Master reboot. And it's a reboot that is aware of the events that happened 30 years ago in the Puppet Master movie. Mm-hmm. And in this one, it is a gathering of people who are fascinated by the massacre, the Puppet Master massacres, and they gather for like a little convention that's taking place at this hotel.
Like true crime aficionados.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
And they all come to the table with their own puppets that they bought on eBay, and so you've got all these people who have gathered, and then Barbara Crampton plays a police officer who was there for that first night.
Oh.
That's cool because of her connection to band.
Exactly.
I love that. That's such a
exactly.
unique link. Yeah.
And sure enough, the puppets start to come back to life, and they're all Nazis. And they start targeting, people that Nazis do not especially care for. And it becomes just a complete bloodbath while everybody is trapped inside this hotel.
Is the dialogue funny? Because I always like the dialogue he writes.
So just to give you guys a little bit of color, Craig Zoller, who did Brawl in Cell Block 9 and Bone Tomahawk, wrote this film. And, it's very much... It's funny because I kind of liken Zoller... he hasn't hit Tarantino level, but he's got that Tarantino
it's
rhythm.
Definitely the closest that's been since him, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, it feels exploitation.
It's its own thing, but it's there.
Without
it's definitely
winking
there.
too much. Yeah,
right. And I feel like this was his From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh yeah,
It was just like something where he just wanted to deviate into pure exploitation horror cinema, and then he just let it all fly. And I talked to D'Alessandro, the producer, afterward, and he goes, this is an NC-17 through and through, and we're not going to change that.
Yeah, how are they going to do? Because the distro,
RLJ is going to release it.
Okay.
Yeah. And listen, it is wrong in so many ways. It's completely off color in its humor. It is in completely non-PC.
Yeah.
And I've seen a little bit of backlash online where people are like, you're rooting for the puppets. You do not root for the puppets whatsoever. What you are kind of relishing and reacting to is just the over-the-top graphic violence. As we have always reacted to in any kind of slasher movie or any over-the-top horror movie. When the villains kill their victims, we go, "Oh my God, that was incredible! Yeah. Look at it! Like the excess of gore and the makeup effects team did a fantastic job doing practical effects all the way through. The puppets are really well done. They're really well designed. So it doesn't
feel like a cheap movie. It feels like a real movie.
Yeah.
That's always my fear with movies like that. Once you get sequels, it's like, is it going to feel like a movie?
This is the best.
The last three have been pretty.
This is legitimately the best Puppet Master movie to come out of the franchise.
Did Charlie Band go to the screening, by the way?
Huh?
Was Charlie Band at the screening?
No.
Man, I figured he would be cheering this on because it's going to breathe life into like what used to be as well.
And listen, I mean, watching the film and watching these Nazi puppets take people out, obviously, I was just kind of like, there is something off about the film in terms of just being completely wrong in its body count and who they're targeting. And the thing is yes, the film is not woke by any means. Yeah. But I said, as long as I see the comeuppance delivered and, retribution is paid and people and these puppets, pay the price, I'm thrilled, know. And they kept it, from going way off track and being really offensive. by, there's a Jewish character in the film, and he's got some of the best one-liners.
Yeah.
And he delivers some swift justice, which is pretty amazing. It also features one of my favorite on-screen kills in many a year.
Wow.
Actually, there are two. The audience loved one. I loved one. I love the one that came later down the road because I jumped out of my seat. I had no idea it was coming. They set it up in such a terrific way. I just did not see it coming. And Brian Collins, I'm sure I shattered his eardrum. He was like sitting in front of me, and I just was like, "Oh my god!" I screamed at the top of my lungs, just thanks to the pacing of the scene, the special effects, and the sound design. It just worked so fucking well.
Had this director done anything else we would have
They did it was two filmmakers. They did a film called Wither.
Oh,
okay.
I remember
Yeah, I
that.
remember
That
that
was
coming
the
out.
Scandinavian Evil Dead, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
it was
yes, yes.
actually, it was not as exciting. Like, it felt kind of one note, but it actually had really good effects and some really good moments in it, I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, well done for a Puppet Master reboot. And listen, just go in, just to have fun. I mean, that's really what it is. And I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people afterward. And there was always that we weren't skirting the issue at all. We were just like, well, listen, it's Nazi. It's the bad guys are Nazis, and they did what Nazis do. And we all were like, yeah, but we feel good afterward because they all the puppets that were that were in the kind of that were in harm's way. They paid the price, and that's what we want. So it was good versus evil, and good kind of came out on top. But it's like you just go in with this movie to have fun. It's a pure cult, sleazy, over the top midnight movie, and you just go in and have fun.
I feel like some movies, if you go in for political correctness, you're just fooling yourself.
Like a trauma movie or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really.
That's the thing. Like
horror's meant to kind of push the envelope anyway with some of that at times, so
Yeah, but anyways, Puppet Master Little Less Rank. That was the one I was like really excited to see for some reason. I was just like super
fun.
stoked.
I could have cared less until that review just now, and also because I knew of whose name was attached.
Yeah.
How long do we have to wait for that, do you think?
I think it comes out in August.
Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. No, they already they announced it on the cusp of the premiere. So
Yeah.
No, I'm really excited about that. Anything else stand out for you from the festival?
I saw Hereditary again,
Okay,
and it holds up really
none
well.
of us want to know. Did I tell this when him and I saw Quiet Place? The trailer came on. Elric freaked out right next to me. He covered his eyes and ears. He's like, no. So you avoided.
Oh, yeah, I did.
I don't know if any of it sunk into you, but you still have not
haven't
seen
even
or heard
really seen
anything.
an image besides the poster. I think that's the only image I've seen so far.
I've had
doing
about
pretty well.
10 people tell me about the opening scene.
Oh.
But yeah, that's all
Somebody
I know.
told me dolls or something were being given away as part of advertising. It's like, I wonder what that's to do with. I'll have to, I don't know.
Oh,
Some sort of takeaway that was being given away
Yeah,
to do
I
with
guess,
it, to creep people out. I don't know.
I mean, I'm happy to say that the film still holds up, and I think if anything, there's a slight pacing thing, but I'm not going to knock a movie that's not even out yet. But it's still really, really well done. I was super excited to see it a second
When is
time.
that? That must be soon though now, right?
I think it's in June. June 8th?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
not
that's
too
coming
long away.
soon.
Cool.
Yeah.
Since we last did an episode, Monster Palooza happened here in town.
Oh, yeah.
Which yet again was, it's still my favorite convention. Ryan, I know you were there, but I didn't see you at all because
I know.
people kept running into you and then me or me and you, and we're like, oh, I saw Ryan here or whatever. But anyway, reason being is because this convention is totally Comic-Con level busy now.
It got super big, didn't it?
It's really
got
huge.
really big.
And there's something really encouraging about a convention that is specifically intended to celebrate the art of practical effects and monsters and things like that. To see it get as big as it's gotten, I mean, it's a pain in the ass to get into it on a Saturday, but it's pretty amazing. And there
Well, it was
some
3 lines. It was literally 3 rows deep just to get into the general admission line, and then the wait list line was just up and around the block. It was
Wow.
crazy.
In other words, go on Friday night if you can. That's the best way to go. But I had a blast. I had a couple of panels there, but the event itself was great. And I saw, I love the museum. They always do a museum there. So every year it's basically because all the effects houses are out here, they kind of contribute some of their pieces or things from movies, memorabilia. And to me, I bumped into Rodman Flender, a friend of the show's who's been on and loves this stuff, and we did the museum together, and there was a great, of all things, a Suspiria display that recreates I don't know what you'd call it, the window
Opening,
kill and
hanging
hanging or whatever. That whole thing was there. So both him and I took photos, and he insisted, he's like, we must start the hashtag Suspiria selfie. And he's like, come on, do it too. That way it'll take off. And so we did. If you go on Instagram now, there are 2 photos hashtagged Suspiria selfie. It's just the 2 of us. It is not taken off by all means. We encourage
If
Suspiria
you have
selfie.
a photo with him.
With Suspiria. Suspiria selfie, that shit.
Yeah, you should totally do that. But I stopped by the Vinegar Syndrome table.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's not
man,
those
did
guys.
I unload and pick up a lot of stuff.
Did you get the new Liquid Sky?
I did get Liquid Sky.
Did you watch it yet?
Not yet.
Oh,
Let's time it,
somebody else-
because
I know.
I haven't watched it yet either, and I have it at home.
I
so
haven't
let's
seen it in
time
like 10 years.
I've
But
never
yeah, I
seen
would
it,
love to
so-
watch it
Yeah,
again.
somebody else needs to watch that one because
Okay.
I love it and I don't know why.
All
You're
right.
not alone. It's definitely a
No,
cult
Liquid
film.
Sky,
big time,
it's a cool movie. I remember liking it. But so I've been watching a lot of their stuff.
Okay.
I have 2 things I picked up from them. The first, and I wouldn't even have known about this, but connecting to Puppet Master, somebody who's directed several of those films is David Dakota, who was on a show. While I was at the table, David walked by and said, you should buy this. And he pointed at something called Nightmare Sisters. And then walked away. And then I was like...
Brink Stevens in that?
Yes. And I was
Yeah.
like, did he direct this? He's like, yes. And I'm like, oh, that's why. But sure enough, I was like, you know what? I've never heard of Nightmare Sisters. It's from 1988. It was directed by David Dakota. It was written by Kenneth Hall, who did the first Puppet Master. And so it's got Brink Stevens, Michelle Bauer, and Linnea Quigley. And so I'm like, sure, sold. So I pick it up, I bring it home, and this movie is so much fun. It is absolutely... if I was 12 and rented this from the video store, it would have been my favorite movie that summer. And basically, according to the special features, and I think it even says on the back of the box, they made this movie it's Roger Corman style, like kind of as it, like they had like 4 days and like they had some trims from some 35 millimeter. And so they're like, can you write something really quickly that just takes place in a house or whatever? And so the premise is that Brink Stevens, Linnea Quigley, and Michelle Bauer are sorority sisters, but they're total nerds. And it's really fun. Like Linnea's got really funny, like buck teeth in. Brink has got giant glasses and like her hair and like a ponytail. And so getting to see those girls play like nerdy girls. Michelle Bauer's
You're talking about like the kind of 80s,
80s nerds.
Yes,
Like
that
Screech.
nerd.
Hot for Teacher.
Like
Van
Revenge of
Halen
the
music video.
Nerds, like to the 10th degree. Like Michelle Bauer's
Wendell.
like stuffed with like she's got, I don't know, she's wearing like a fat suit underneath or whatever. And so anyway, they're these really nerdy girls and they invite these nerdy sorority boys over one night. And basically, Brink collects a lot of weird stuff from an antique shop. So she breaks out a crystal ball. They do a seance. And out of nowhere, lightning comes out and they become topless versions of the Scream Queens we know and love. Like literally out of nowhere, they are now super hot. They're super naked and they are succubus. Their only goal now is to eat and devour boys.
Nice.
And so that is the type of movie you're getting. Nothing more, nothing less. It's really funny and it's just that kind of over the top, like fun, geeky horror humor from the 80s. So I absolutely love this thing. And again, once in a blue moon, Vinegar Syndrome will hit us with this or like a Hobgoblins, just something that you're like, I can't believe this exists, but it's a blast.
I'm going to have to pick that up at Texas Frightmare.
I just read
Nightmare
that
Sisters.
down.
Are you looking at it?
I'm looking it up, and I remember I might have seen it on USA Up All Night.
It looks like the cover of Slime Ball from...
Yeah,
But
that is
yeah,
the
yeah,
cover of
yeah,
Slime
that's
Ball.
what it
That
was.
is
He did it on the cusp of that. I guess whatever
So
he had
similar
left
kind
over
of
from
vibe.
that,
Which
he did
feels,
it.
because their sorority is the setup for Slime Ball
Yes.
as well.
So it's kind of a companion piece to that, but I forgot the best part. It also includes, it includes the TV edit, because when I say they are topless and naked for the second half of the movie, they are for like the whole thing. And so apparently according to the special feature, a year later, Dakota sold it to some TV thing. And so a completely year after the fact, he shot them in like nighting gowns or whatever.
Oh, wow.
And so that version where like it's a TV cut so it doesn't look as good, but that version where it obviously cuts to footage that's from a year later
Right.
Wow.
of all of them is all in that as
He
well.
made a lot
So
of films.
He
David.
did.
My God.
He's made
No,
hundreds.
when you said he pointed at this movie and told me to buy it, I was like, talking
He probably
cat
made it.
film.
Yeah.
He makes a lot, so I can't keep up with all his stuff.
Yeah.
God bless David Dakota.
I'll let you guys go. I'll do my other one.
Other Vinegar Syndrome
yes.
ones? Or?
Well, I had a really cool experience. First I'll say, in between this and our last show, I went to Phoenix Film Festival.
All right.
which was awesome.
No gun incidents or anything like that.
Yeah, your last
incidents.
one.
Oh, yeah. That was
That
at
was the
Phoenix
Comic-Con.
Comic-Con.
Oh, that was Phoenix Comic-Con.
Yeah, no, this was
got
Phoenix
it.
Film Festival. My film,
thank God.
All the Creatures, was playing there. We had 2 screenings. We sold out both of them, which was
Nice.
awesome. So we drove down for the Saturday night screening. It was amazing. I met a bunch of Shockwaves listeners there. The Geeks Who Eat, who have done a ton of stuff for Blumhouse and worked with us a bunch at Blumhouse.com. They were there. And then Monty Yazzie, who's a big supporter
Yeah, Film
of,
Bar, he programs stuff for
yeah, and he's also one of the main programmers for the Phoenix Film Festival. So he was there and hung out with us, and it was just awesome. So yeah, it was just a good night across the board. So that was last weekend. This weekend, on Sunday, they do this thing at Disneyland called Dapper Day. And on Dapper Day, you're supposed to get dressed up like you would if you were going to Disneyland in the 1950s. And I never missed a chance to wear vintage clothing, so I was like, hell yeah, let's get dressed up and go. Dave put on a bow tie, we're going. And
I was at Knott's Berry Farm when you were there, and all I was thinking is you're so like higher upper crust that you can afford
Upper
Disney
crust.
when I'm having to slum it at Knott's at a quarter of the price at Knott's.
I like knots. But yeah, so the family and I are rolling off the Jungle Cruise, and this guy walks up to me, and I mean, like, it's Dapper Day, so I'm wearing this 1950s dress, and I have my hair up in this like Audrey Hepburn bun, and I'm wearing sunglasses, and this guy walks up to me, and he goes, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're here. I just had to come up and meet you." And I was like, oh my God, he thinks I'm somebody famous. He's like confusing me with somebody. And then he can see the confusion on my face, and he goes, "Becca, it's Ryan." And I was like, "Ryan?" And he goes, "Ryan Larson." And I lost my shit.
Creator of our
And
group.
I hugged him, and he had a girl with him who he hadn't even introduced yet, and I hugged her too. And I was like,
Make sure you explain who that is to those who
so
aren't
yes,
familiar with the
Ryan
group.
Larson
Good time to introduce them.
runs the Shockwaves fan group on Facebook. What is the official?
The Shockwaves Horror Movie Club.
That's the one.
5,000 plus strong, so if you're not on there, get in there.
Yeah, and so Ryan Larson runs that. He created Ghastly Grinning, which is just a complete and total kick-ass horror website. And so just seeing him at Disneyland just made my flippin' day. Like, yeah, Disneyland's great. And all,
Next
but
time, Ryan, you might want to tell us you're coming to town. We could have slipped you in here.
I told him that. I was like, next time you are even remotely in Southern California, tell us and we will have you on the damn show. So yeah, but it was just amazing seeing him and meeting him, and he's just so sweet, and it was awesome by far.
That's
Best
great.
part of my weekend. So yeah. But stuff I actually like watched. I know.
my lead-in.
This is my lead in. So I'll go with a graphic novel here. So I read all of Witches this week. The
WY.
WY.
Yeah, I think I read the first one.
CHES. Yeah.
Yep.
I think they did 6 volumes.
With the teen girl. Who, Yeah, I thought the first one was really cool.
Yeah, the first one is I definitely like. I loved up till 3, and then I'll talk about that. But yeah, so the whole setup of this is that the Rook family has moved to New Hampshire. The Rook family has moved to New Hampshire, and their daughter, who is a teenager sailor, is fighting with this bully, and then all of a sudden the bully kind of gets like zapped into this tree. And no one can find her. And all the kids at school start this rumor that Sailor killed her. And no one can figure out what happened to the bully. So there's this kind of like criminal investigation going on in the background. And what you find out is that there are witches, but they're not like witches as like most of us perceive witches as like, you know, women in the woods who do spells or anything like that. They're completely different. They're very creature-like. And even though it's unexplained in the first couple, there's this act where you can pledge somebody to the witches, where you literally kind of run up, smear them with this green goo, and then the witches will come and take them away.
Actually, when you say it like that, it sounds a little bit like that Pie Wacket film we were talking about.
A little bit, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like that too much, but some of that mythology of the trees and
Yeah, the
a lot of
trees,
stuff.
like they definitely, the witches are much more kind of primordial and nature and creatures, and it gets a lot more into like trees and this goo and kind of, you know, the earthenness of witchcraft. And I absolutely loved the first one, kept going. I think that it falls into the trap later on that a lot lot of graphic novels do, which is like when you create a graphic novel and present it to, in this case, it was Image, like you're literally creating it for like 6 episodes or 6 comics. And so once it takes off and it's still going, like volume upon volumes later, you have to keep explaining the mythology to keep it running. So by like, I think it was probably the 4th book, I was like, don't tell me anymore. Like they keep explaining exactly what's going on and they keep getting further into the mythology, and then it lost kind of some of the mystery to me. But the first few, I was completely in love with it. This was slated for a movie in 2014 with
HBO.
Yeah, with the HBO. Brad Pitt was supposed to produce it. I don't know whatever happened to it, but it would have made a kick-ass movie.
Were they supposed to do a follow-up or a sequel? I thought Image was supposed to do some sort of...
They did. They released, and I did not, I was reading about this, but I didn't read it. Like that there was a new a new version of it that was available, I want to say last August.
No, but like a whole new story. I thought there was like a whole... Really?
I think it already came out. As I was researching it, I was reading that there was some type of new edition. Either it was like a re-release or there was a new edition. I literally read like, I think it was the 6 volumes that were like the original part.
Why is it spelled with a Y?
Because they're not witches.
Oh.
They're witches. It's a little different.
How did I miss this?
Yeah,
It says,
it's out, isn't it? Didn't come out last...
Volume 2...
Yeah.
I thought we traded this around a little bit. I could be mistaken.
The first volume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So
Shit, I'll have to
there's a
pick that up.
second.
Cool.
So that's witches.
Nice. Elric.
I saw one of the biggest movies of the 1980s that I hadn't seen. A little movie called Demon Wind. I finally caught
still need to
Demon
watch
Wind. It's Imagine Evil Dead without any of the charm, and you have Demon Wind, exactly the movie in a heartbeat. It's one of those movies that I kind of enjoy. Parts lag big time.
Yeah,
like really, the story is its weak point. The special effects are actually like what's cool about it is they're kind of closer to demons, like the movie Demons. It's like a little bit of Demons mixed with Evil Dead. I actually noticed Jeff Farley's name in the credits for special effects. A guy we all know. It's all the sequences with actual horror and gore are actually kind of fucking awesome, and everything in between is really bad. Like the characterization of the characters is just abysmal, like painfully, like and not even by 80 standards, where it's like just random people keep driving up to this cabin, and go, "Hey man, hey, how's it going?" You're just each one's a caricature. You're like, why do these people keep coming?
What doesn't one show up and then like they get in a fight and he like karate kicks him?
Yeah, he's got mad. That's one of the greatest scenes. This would be like the most gifable scene on earth. But one of the guys shows up and the other guy, the jock character's with his ex-girlfriend, and he gets out and he throws something up in the air. It's a gun or something, and then he does a double reverse karate kick, kicks it in the air, and it goes up in the air again. He kicks it like 5 times, and you're like, it's so absurd in the context of the movie, but it's that perfect WTF 80s vibe.
Yeah.
But I would actually really recommend it for that. I mean, there aren't many movies from the 80s that we keep getting to discover like this, but man, it definitely is something that where the drama really lags. I couldn't even tell you what's happening once they're in the cabin, but the basic setup is a guy who's lost his parents, goes to this cabin in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of cabin, a kind of house. At the start of the film, they give you a crazy backstory to it, and where some sort of the demons come when the wind comes, and they're trying to block it out. And basically, once they all enter the house, it's like the fabric of time and space changes around this little cabin. And every time they look outside, they're tempted to go outside by, I think one is a Playboy bunny who they hired to like be topless in fog. And then when you go out, she turns into a grotesque demon. But the actual effects really do look like demons, and I thought it was fun. Like, I'm glad I watched it. It's hard to overly recommend, but it's definitely a party movie.
I have a stack of stuff that I acquired at Frightmare last year.
Yeah. That would be
was that one?
And that was
no, because they put it out since, I think.
No. What I'm saying is that I still have a stack that I have not watched. Literally, the Texas. I literally have a set aside the Texas Frightmare stack,
like your Arrow stuff.
And I was just like, Jesus, yes. And it's that Demon Wind. I used to look at it every weekend, and I go, "Am I ready?"
I think you're ready. It's fun. It's a goofy, fun Friday night movie.
With people.
I watched it with Miller,
with pizza and
with
beer.
Josh Miller, and with pizza and beer, and we just laughed because it became one of those movies where that we want to remake and actually put the cover on in the movie because the demon on the cover really isn't
in it. But there are some good demons.
I mean, it's an awesome cover.
Yeah. But it's also this one for those who don't want to like commit to that. Is it Vinegar Syndrome?
Yeah, they put it
don't
out.
want to commit
Yeah.
to the purchase. It is also Amazon streaming,
Yep.
and it's HD. So I've actually found that's a really nice way to like see some of these in advance lately is on Amazon.
Yeah.
I'll just throw this because it's super quick. My favorite movie of the year so far, so I want to plug it. It's about violence more than horror, but it's so fucking good. I want to make sure people see it, and that is the new Joaquin Phoenix, Lynn Ramsey film. You were never really here. It is superb, and what it does, it's really violent. It's kind of like Taxi Driver. It's got like a very thin story, but I think it's on purpose so she can really like push the character. And he's just an incredible. Like this is my kind of superhero movie. Like I like superhero movies almost as much as the next guy, but I much prefer a movie like this where it's about somebody who's also kind of suicidal and violent, and it's just a really intense movie. But what it does is it basically, and this is how you can, Lynn Ramsey, who's always been one of my favorite directors. She made We Need to Talk About Kevin, Ratcatcher, Morven Callan. She's only made like one film every, like 2 films a decade lately. But this film, I think, in a way, is one of my favorites because she's going diving into genre, and instead of making what could just be an action thriller, she basically takes all the action out, and anytime there's going to be an action, she just shows you the violence without action and makes it really brutal and swift, and it makes you just go, ooh, and sometimes she shows the after moment, so you miss the violence. And Joaquin, Joaquin in general, I just think he's like our Daniel Day-Lewis in this country, and he really is one of the great actors, and in this might be one of his best things he's done, and after you watch it, there's Joaquin never talks about stuff he does, like ever. I don't think he ever does interviews. Elvis Mitchell did he's got a show called The Treatment, 30-minute show. He has both the director and Joaquin on it on the new episode. So as soon as you watch it, it's worth listening to because it's pretty interesting how he's trying to live in the moment, and sometimes it leads to kind of crazy shit going down.
Well, Joaquin did on opening night. He went to all the Q&As. He went to all the Q&As,
which tells you what he thinks about this movie. Because this is a guy who does not do this shit. He
that was
really
exciting.
Likes this movie, and it's really dark and violent. So it's not like it's not horror. It's it's not a horror film, but man, it's like I loved it. I was like, it just shows how when a director, kind of like with Raw or even Revenge, I feel like you find somebody who's going to focus on things. You've seen these movies a million times, but if a new director comes to it who hasn't done something like that before, they just find these weird little moments they put in. This has a lot of fractured memories and stuff, and man, it just makes the movie. So anyway, I highly recommend that one for anyone because it probably won't be in theaters very long. I would bet it's already been there about 2 weeks. So.
Yeah. I want to check it out.
Nice.
Well, I wanted to mention a follow up with the one other film that I watched this week that kind of ties into a certain level of darkness, and I haven't seen Angel Heart from 1987
Love that movie.
since high school.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And the exploration of seeing it in high school is just because I wanted to see Lisa Bonet do dirty things. And now an older gentleman watching Angel Heart. My God, what a great fucking movie this is!
Such a good fucking movie.
Alan Parker's just a
Alan
great director.
Parker, the bomb. And the reason why I kind
And
of
twists that still get you, like even now
Oh
you
my
can
God,
watch it and you'd be like, oh, I
It's
forgot.
so
And I still
gnarly.
watch it and notice things that I didn't notice
Yeah.
before, like the subtlety that they include in the background and the
Yeah.
texture and how some of
That
the
should be a
motifs
Criterion
are worked
film.
in.
It really
it's that
should.
It really
good.
should.
Yeah,
The
it's
soundtrack is amazing.
It's
Yeah.
really, really solid.
been a few years for me too, so I got to
should
go back. I'll
revisit
probably
it.
love seeing it again.
Grady Hendrix mentions it in his the novel Falling Angel and Paperbacks from Hell, and I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen that movie in forever. And then we were getting geared up to go to New Orleans, and so we're like, let's watch Angel Heart. But if you guys don't know what it's about, Mickey Rourke plays a private detective named Harry Angel, who's been hired by Robert De Niro's Louis Cypher.
Louis Cypher.
Well, he pronounces it like all French and stuff.
Cypher.
And Robert De Niro corrects him and he's like, no, it's Cypher.
Oh.
And yeah, he keeps pronouncing it that way. But they basically he hires him to track down this singer named Johnny Favorite because he owes a debt to De Niro. And Harry Angel kind of goes down this dark investigation, which leaves like a trail of bodies in his wake. And he's like basically following the breadcrumbs, all these people who have either worked with Johnny Favorite or have, been intimate with him. And you've got Lisa Bonet, you've got Charlotte Rampling, Pruitt Taylor Vince has a little bit in it. But man, it's just like pure, mature, atmospheric adult horror. Like just really great performances, really heavy themes, and it's just like a very thoughtful horror film. I mean,
And pretty Mickey. Any movie with pre beat up by boxing Mickey, like this is
Yeah.
like pretty Mickey Rourke back in the day.
Yeah, but
That guy had a great face.
he still feels edgy as well. So Yeah, this one, it's just got some beautiful, like I remember a scene with a woman singing while she's playing in the shore at Coney Island. Like there's just such cool ways to film people.
I mean, like basically he's going from New York to Louisiana.
Is that why you watch it? Because you were in New Orleans?
Yes, yeah. And it was just fantastic just to see just the landscape. I mean, it's set in the 1950s, and it's just like all of the colorful characters he meets along the way, and you know, because Johnny Favorite is rooted in, you know, the kind of Southern music scene, you know, it's just like such rich music. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful movie. And then there's just like, it beats you in the fucking head with a hammer at the very end.
Yeah.
And you're just
when
like,
you find out that he's Soylent Green. Other spoiler, different movie.
But I mean, like, listen, look beyond the non-subtle nature of everybody's names in the film, which kind of like broadcast things way ahead and just go for the ride.
Yeah, I feel like this is like there should be a list of those movies that are like this and Jacob's Ladder. Those movies that are just like amazing to come back to if you haven't seen them in a while, and they're all psychological horror. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime. So I just added it along with something. Wes Craven presents Don't Look Down.
What's Don't Look Down?
I don't know, but I added it to it's on Prime as well.
I feel like we should have a show where we're just looking at computers and talking about what we're seeing. We're just like, hey, I'm scrolling.
I found Don't Look Down.
Yeah. Let's see. My last thing was also from Vinegar Syndrome. I picked up Graduation Day from 1981, which I believe you talked about many.
Yeah, it was a while back.
Many eons ago.
Is that the one that opens with like the running?
I think I texted you. Yes, it opens at a track meet, and it is the way it is edited by a schizophrenic on cocaine.
Right.
Because it is the most exciting, fast-paced track race I've ever seen in my life. And then it ends with, and this isn't a spoiler because it's the opening scene, it literally ends with the girl that pushes herself so hard she wins and then has a heart attack and dies at the cross line. And so then it's like, dum, now it's graduation day. So we fast forward to that, and somebody is knocking off in spectacular Friday the 13th fashion all the other people on the track team, including the very suspicious, what's his name? Christopher George.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Of Pieces fame.
And
who is
City of the Living Dead.
City of the Living Dead. He's the coach, and then there's like a mysterious woman that comes back into town in the opening sequence. It turns out to be the dead girl's older sister. So, then she might be a red herring. So there's all these like red herrings and stuff.
I get this one mixed up with Final Exam, not because the stories aren't anything alike, but just the setting.
That's why I always get it pretty much the same thing. And Linnea Quigley had a bit part in this as well. So it's not great, but it's not bad either. It's just kind of it was just a fun, straightforward slasher from that perfect period of the early 90s. Like we always say,
it doesn't matter. You have to watch it from that period.
It
late
is.
80s,
There's
90s,
something about it. There's a couple cool kills, but really it was mostly about the editing. Like it's cut together in such a frenetic way that it stood out to me. I was like, this is just insane.
Yeah.
And I think I texted you. I was like, do you remember Graduation Day?
I remember the reveal
track
too.
Meet and the way this is edited.
I just remember the cover. I don't think I've actually seen it.
This is Vinegar Syndrome. I picked this up from them as well. Yeah, it's one of their early releases, so I picked this up for them.
Very cool.
But super cool. I really enjoyed this film. So
I got two more that I will throw out quickly. So I watched The Corpse of Anna Fritz. Have you guys heard of
That's on
this one?
Shudder, right?
It is on Shudder.
Exclusive, I haven't seen.
And it is from 2015. It's a Spanish film directed by Hector Hernandez Vikins. And the setup, I was worried that it was going to be just like Dead Girl, and the setup is similar, but it goes really interesting places, and actually the setup feels a little bit different. So this famous actress dies. And it's three guys come up with this idea that they want to be the last people in the world to ever have sex with her. And so, I know. While she's dead. So, no, she's dead in the morgue. This famous actress has died.
Oh, boy.
I know. And I couldn't believe I was continuing watch this because it's such an ugly setup.
Necromantic
The Corpse
style.
of Anna Fritz.
The Corpse of Anna
Fritz. Add it to my
Fritz.
queue. Or maybe not.
Yeah.
Am I adding it or not?
I actually enjoyed it. I will say it's ugly and it's brutal, and there were moments where I was like, "Why am I still watching this?" But it goes a really interesting place.
Becca,
not
I hated
like
these
Dead
characters.
Girl. You did?
I hated them.
I did. Okay, I hated them, but they get their comeuppance.
What'd they ever do? Fight fuck a corpse?
No, they're terrible, terrible people.
Worse than the Dead Girl guys because they're pretty awful.
And that's how it pivots. And it feels like Dead Girl, where you're just waiting for something to happen to these awful characters, and it goes in an interesting place. So I actually It was not by any means like it's not going to be in my top 10 of what I saw this year, but I was still fascinated enough to continue with where it went.
Do they address rigor mortis during the act?
I believe so.
It's
Like Visitor Q does.
It's a brisk 74 minutes.
It's a brisk, it's only 74 minutes long, guys.
It is free on Shudder, so I guess I could watch it. If I watch the first 10 minutes, will I get hooked by that, or is that not enough?
You're going to want to keep going because that's just the actress dying and setting up how what her fandom is and everything. But I will say,
Shudder, I might try
ultimately,
this.
I mean, and without giving reveals, it does pivot to the rape revenge film. But that's when I'm suddenly like, okay, now I'm in because these three horrible characters.
Ryan's not having
crazy.
any of it. If you could see his face.
I had a very vocal reaction to this film when I watched it, and I was just like, this isn't a story I wanted to see told.
The first third is ugly.
It's
ugly. But then I liked where it went from there.
Becca watches Go-Go Second Time Virgin, so she's edgy.
Edgier. So,
she's edgy.
Yeah. But then the last one I'll talk about is a complete left turn from that one. The Nightwalker, which is from 1964.
Looks cool.
This is William Castle, completely unlike anything William Castle. So he made this after House on Haunted Hill, after The Tingler. Everyone was like, okay, we need another gimmick. And he was like, no, I'm going to give you this thing. And it's neither funny nor campy. It has no gimmick to it. He got a screenplay by Robert Bloch, which he saw as like the big selling point, and it stars Barbara Stanwyck. And the whole setup is that there is this blind gentleman, and he believes that his wife is cheating on him. And he becomes so kind of preoccupied that his wife is cheating on him. He's got like the whole house is tape recorded. And she is living in like this constant state of fear and paranoia and anxiety because you don't really think that she's cheating on him at the beginning, but she's just constantly on edge and he's really possessive over her. And she starts having these absolutely, absolutely horrible nightmares. Well, he's a scientist and there's this crazy explosion in his lab and he dies. And so she's now left by herself. She moves out of that house, starts a whole new life, and starts having these crazy, trippy nightmares. And they start bleeding into reality where you never know what's real or what's not. And she starts questioning, was she really cheating on him? Who are these people? Why is she seeing these weird mannequin faces? Like they use mannequin faces in it a lot, and they're terrifying. Why is she seeing all these weird faces in her reality? She questions.
Are there secret desires in it?
Yes. Why, yes, there are secret desires.
Are
you reading the cover?
He's looking at the cover.
The poster promised me secret desires.
There are secret desires. And it actually, as like you keep kind of preempting what you think the twist might be, and I did not see it coming.
I've got, Brian lent me the Blu-ray of this one that's just sitting on my thing. I want to check
it out.
Yeah,
it's
really,
what's the one you talked about as well? You talked about the Curtis Harrington one recently with the blood thing in the sky. What was that thing called?
Wait, what again? The House that Dripped Blood, or no?
No, you talked about one at Chattanooga.
House of Long Shadows.
It was one you talked about with an alien thing and a heart thing.
Time Walker.
Time Walker. Those two are Nightwalker and Time Walker are two.
So Nightwalker,
double feature, guys.
Easy to get confused.
It's really trippy. It's very hard boiled because it really does become kind of a detective thing to figure out what's going on, and it definitely is really slow. But I was fascinated by this. Like I wanted to see the whole time where it was going because it does have this kind of detective angle of, well, who's this guy? What's going on? What do all these characters mean? This did not perform well for Castle. Like it definitely was not a good performing movie for him. So I think that this is kind of now we're just suddenly going, he did this movie called The Nightwalker. But yeah, it was a fascinating watch. Slow. Don't expect it to move really fast.
Alrighty. I'm fascinated by stuff that Bloch wrote. Yeah, really quickly, just to throw out there, because they're not exactly genre, but they're sort of in the wheelhouse. I recently got a bunch of stuff from my friend Mark Ward at RLJ.
Yep.
So I'm checking out some of his back catalog, and one of them was the Paul Schrader movie Dog Eat Dog.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Oh, yeah, you
I haven't seen it yet. No, and I usually see Schrader movies straight away.
Dafoe and
Nick Cage, baby.
Ryan's.
Yeah.
If you're watching video.
This is the problem with having a video because when I'm silent, I'm shaking my head.
He's shaking his head right now. Why are you shaking your head? This is a Beyond. Did you see it at Beyond Fest?
Yeah, I thought the movie was terrible.
Really? I had fun with it.
Turek's just all critical today.
Almost unwatchable.
I don't think it's unwatchable. I think it's kind of out of control and pretty fun.
I did hear
There's some
Schrader
really
tried to
weird
make
shit
it
in
like purposely tried to do like camera moves that he had never done before, so he tried to make it purposely crazy.
Right.
Because his next film, the one with Ethan Hawke that's getting all the buzz.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently it's like the people say it's the best thing he's made in his career. It's a horror thing.
I hope so. And I think he's already kind of written this one off. Maybe. I thought I read an
Who's
article.
crazier, Dafoe Defoe or
It's because
Cage?
Turek called it like
crazier.
unwatchable.
No, Defoe is by far.
Okay, because I heard
It
they actually
is-
switched roles. Maybe that was
Yes,
the thing. Yeah.
it is. It is over the top, the most bizarre and crazy Willem Dafoe's been on screen in quite a while, and he's done some weird shit on screen. So,
And we will be asking Cage about it when he's in here for Mandy later in the year. Turek has promised me.
We can hope.
He made
We
a
can
commitment
hope.
to me that we will get Cage.
a little more classier than Dog Eat Dog, and so I want Ryan to wave yes for once. I've been on a Hitchcock kick lately, and so I've been trying to fill in blankets in his filmography. He's got so many movies, and so Warner Archive did a sale recently, and they've got a couple of his pretty obscure ones. So I watched a movie called I Confess from 1953 with Montgomery Clift. Great premise. It's actually. I find something to love about every Hitchcock movie, so I think it's really good, but I understand why this one isn't as talked about as a lot of his other ones, because it's good, but it's not like super strong. But the premise is amazing, which basically in the opening, a gentleman comes into a church and confesses murder to a priest. And now the priest is the main suspect to the police, and he can't tell them because he can't break his oath to God of the confession booth. And so the whole thing is about, this priest trying to figure out, how do I not tell who really did it and at the same time clear my own name? So, I mean, right off there, that just sounds like a typical Hitchcock premise. And Montgomery Clift is really great in it. I just thought it was it was a really interesting pocket in his career that I don't hear a lot of people talk about.
There's a great story about
I think
that one.
Bogdanovich is on the bonus features. It's one of his favorites. So
Yeah, there's a story because Hitchcock wasn't really known. I mean, he hired good actors, but he wasn't really known as an actor's director. But there's a story where Clift could not do a scene where he has to run out of the church, and there's all these people, and then he has to look up at a clock. And every time he did it, he wouldn't look up at the clock, and he was really struggling. And he kept saying to Hitchcock, Hitchcock's wondering what's wrong. He's like, well, what's my motivation to look up? Because I've got all these people. I want to look at them. Why the hell would I look up at a clock? And Hitchcock looked at him and goes, because I'm paying you. And that is the only motivation he could give his actor. And I'm like, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
excellent. Very cool. Anything else from anybody else?
All I'll say is I finished, so I taught a genre class this semester where I shared things like Manhunter and The Fly and all this crazy stuff, and I ended the semester talking about how a director can be a genre unto themselves, and I ended with Mulholland Drive, and when I turned on the lights, I saw students looking at me like a couple, like they wanted to kill me, a couple with their minds like expanded to, like none of them had seen, one kid had, but it was so fun to watch. But what I was reminded of, because I hadn't seen it in a few years, I just reminded how certain sequences of that are, like Lost Highway 2, are scarier than anything anyone else is directing.
Yep.
His ability in one sequence to be funny, like you have a comic sequence with the guy shooting people accidentally, and then you'll have a scene like the nightmare behind the dumpster, and you're like, that is the behind Winkies, and you're like, that's the scariest single scene I think ever filmed.
Nightmare fuel,
and so it's just so much fun to watch people
mine's
and not knowing his work.
I always show the Club Silencio.
Oh, yeah.
in
So, no,
my
Silencio's
class,
amazing.
because that is like the scariest thing ever filmed.
I like
and how
the-
he literally plays a joke on the audience because
Yeah.
you forget everything that he told you within 10 minutes.
What I will say, though, because I've seen this maybe like 3 or 4 times now over my life, but what I realize about the way he makes movies, and it's really interesting, is there's actually no, how usually it's like, oh, you'll get more the second time. No, it's literally impossible to get all of this story information, because what they do, there's a certain thing with a key and a scene that happens before. Scenes are actually out of order, so you would actually have to see it a second time to really feel it in the moment. Otherwise, you're only like piecing it together. So the more you watch that movie, the more you'll start to go, oh my God, I never knew that. And I can't obviously spoil it. I would love to go into a spoiler tear on this one now that it's in my brain.
I don't think you can spoil it.
Yeah.
But we'll talk.
But anyway, I just want to remind people that that's a film, even if you've seen it, might be fun to revisit.
And I don't
Yeah.
even know if the article still exists online, but a couple of years ago, my husband Dave on Blumhouse.com did a literal kind of play-by-play of here's what it means,
Breaking
and
it
here's
down, yeah.
all of the breadcrumbs that are dropped
Yeah.
throughout the entire thing. And it's obviously nothing but spoilers, but if you've seen it
yeah.
and you really want to like
Dig
follow
in.
the breadcrumbs the whole way through, it's really extensive.
I just love the cowboy. He's like, if you see me one more time, and you do good, but if you see me 2 more times, and you're like, uh-oh, what does that mean?
The amount, when I first came to Hollywood, I remember somebody joking about Mulholland Drive. Like, that's what Hollywood is. And I never believed it. And the amount of times that I have left pitch meetings and
This is the girl.
And had that and been like, okay, well, it looks like we're casting blankety blank. And then Dave will look at me and go, this is the girl.
Oh, yeah, I think all of that stuff is based on, I even think the funny audition scene is based on Lynch. You like the weird direction that the director gives, like, don't make it real till it gets real. Like, I think a lot of that's coming from who he is in the goofy way. But anyway, great movie. And we have a really solid show coming up now.
Yeah, we've got guests here, so let me grab them.